I want you to pause for just a moment and imagine this. You have waited years, sometimes decades. You followed the rules, you paid the fees, you learned the language, you built a life in America, and now, just when citizenship finally feels within reach, the door starts to close. Not because of something you did wrong, but because the rules themselves are changing. For millions of immigrants around the world, the American dream now feels closer than ever and farther away than it has in years. For many people watching today, this story is personal. You may be living in the United States right now, working hard, raising a family, paying taxes, and contributing to your community. Or you may be watching from another country, hoping one day to make America your permanent home. Either way, the recent shifts in U.S. immigration policy under Donald Trump have created fear, confusion, and deep uncertainty for would-be U.S. citizens. This video is not about politics or taking sides. It is about real people and real consequences. It is about how changes in immigration policy can reshape lives overnight. And it is about understanding what is happening step by step in clear and simple language. Let's begin by talking about the American dream, because that phrase is more than a slogan. For immigrants, it often means safety, stability, opportunity, and dignity. It means being able to plan for the future without fear. It means knowing that if you follow the law, work hard, and contribute to society, you will eventually belong. For decades, the path to U.S. citizenship was difficult, but it was predictable. You applied for a visa, you waited, you adjusted status or became a permanent resident, you held your green card for the required number of years, you stayed out of trouble, you applied for naturalization, you studied for the civics test, and finally, you became a citizen. It was not easy, but people could see the path ahead. Under the Trump administration, that sense of predictability began to disappear. One of the biggest changes immigrants felt was the shift in tone. Immigration was no longer discussed mainly as a benefit to the country, but often as a threat. That change in language had real consequences. When leaders speak differently, agencies act differently. Officers interpret rules more strictly. Applications that once passed smoothly began to face delays, requests for more evidence, or outright denials. Let me tell you about Maria. She is a nurse from the Philippines who came to the U.S. legally on a work visa. She worked through the pandemic, caring for patients when hospitals were overwhelmed. After years of lawful status, she applied for her green card. Everything was in order, or so she thought. Months passed, then a request for evidence arrived, asking for documents she had already submitted. Then another delay, then another review. Maria lived in constant fear that one small mistake could send her back to a country she barely recognized anymore. Her citizenship dreams were not denied outright, but they were frozen in uncertainty. This is a common story. Another major issue was the expansion of something called extreme vetting. In simple terms, this meant more background checks, more interviews, and more scrutiny for applicants. While security is important, the way these measures were implemented often caused long delays without clear explanations. People applying for citizenship suddenly found themselves waiting far longer than before. Interviews were postponed, oath ceremonies were delayed, files were sent back for additional review. For Ahmed, a software engineer from Egypt living in Texas, the wait became unbearable. He applied for naturalization after holding his green card for over 5 years. He passed the English test. He passed the civics test. The officer even told him everything looked good. Then nothing happened. Months turned into more than a year. Ahmed could not vote. He could not apply for certain jobs. He could not travel freely without fear of re-entry problems. His life was on hold, even though he had done everything right. Another major barrier came from changes to asylum and refugee policies. Many people hoping to become U.S. citizens first arrived as asylum seekers. Under Trump-era rules, asylum became far harder to obtain. Standards were raised. Deadlines were enforced more strictly. Safe third country agreements limited who could even apply. For families fleeing violence or persecution, this meant being turned away before they ever had a chance to build a future. Take Rosa, a mother from Honduras who fled gang violence with her 2 children. She hoped to claim asylum and eventually build a permanent life in the U.S. Instead, she was placed in prolonged legal limbo. Without asylum, there is no green card. Without a green card, there is no citizenship. Her American dream was blocked at the very first step. Then there was the public charge rule. This policy caused widespread fear among immigrants. It suggested that using certain public benefits could hurt your chances of getting a green card or citizenship. Even immigrants who were legally eligible for assistance began to avoid healthcare, food programs, and housing help. Parents worried that enrolling their children in school lunch programs could destroy their future. Although the rule was challenged in court and later rolled back, the damage was already done. Fear had spread faster than facts. Legal immigrants began to see America as a place where the rules could change suddenly and without warning. Processing times also increased dramatically. Citizenship applications that once took 6 months began taking a year or more. Some cases stretched to 2 or 3 years. These delays are not just paperwork problems. They affect real lives. When you are not a citizen, your rights are limited. You cannot vote. You may face travel restrictions. You may be excluded from certain government jobs. You may worry that a policy change could affect your status. Citizenship is security. Delaying it delays stability. For many would-be citizens, the emotional toll has been enormous. Anxiety, depression, sleepless nights, parents worrying about their children's future, couples afraid to plan weddings, buy homes, or start businesses. This is what despair looks like. Not loud protests or dramatic headlines, but quiet fear carried every day. It is also important to understand that immigration policy does not affect everyone equally. People from certain countries faced higher denial rates. People with limited English skills struggled to navigate complex forms. People without lawyers were at a serious disadvantage. Immigration law is already one of the most complicated areas of U.S. law. When policies change rapidly, even experienced attorneys struggle to keep up. For ordinary immigrants, it can feel impossible. Some people ask, why not just wait until things improve? But waiting has a cost. Age limits, deadlines, and eligibility rules do not stop while you wait. A missed filing window can mean years of delay or permanent ineligibility. And while administrations change, the impact of past policies can last for years. Backlogs do not disappear overnight. Trauma does not fade quickly. Even now, many immigrants are still dealing with cases that were delayed or damaged during that period. Trust in the system has been shaken. But it is also important to say this clearly. The American dream is not completely gone. It is damaged, yes. Slowed, yes. More complicated, yes. But not gone. There are still legal paths, there are still protections, there are still opportunities for those who understand the system and take informed action. Knowledge is power in immigration law. Understanding your rights, your options, and your deadlines can make the difference between moving forward and being stuck. If you are applying for citizenship, it is crucial to keep copies of everything. Track your case. Respond quickly to any requests from immigration authorities. Seek reliable legal advice when possible. Do not rely on rumors or social media fear. If you are outside the U.S., know that immigration policy can change, but preparation matters. Strong documentation, honest applications, and patience remain essential. Most importantly, remember that your value does not depend on a piece of paper. Immigrants have built America, generation after generation. That truth has not changed. This channel exists to bring clarity in confusing times, to replace fear with information, and to remind you that you are not alone in this process. If this video helped you understand what is happening and why so many would-be U.S. citizens feel blocked today, please consider subscribing to Legal Focus USA. We share clear, trustworthy updates on immigration law and policy, explained in simple language. Your journey matters, your story matters, and staying informed is one of the strongest tools you have. Thank you for watching, and we will see you in the next update.